This is VOA News via remote. I'm Tommy McNeil. Without the crowds and fanfare and balloons, a virtual Democratic convention opened online Monday after the coronavirus pandemic forced the party to overhaul the convention, largely eliminating in person gathering planned in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and turning it into a four-night event of 2 hours, primetime packages of virtual speeches and events. Without the cheering crowds of a typical convention, organizers face a challenge in trying to build enthusiasm among supporters in the presumptive presidential nominee, former Vice President Joe Biden. U.S. President Donald Trump will be formally nominated for his second term at next week's Republican National Convention, which also has been scaled back due to coronavirus concerns. U.S. President Donald Trump said Monday he wants to speed up U.S. mail delivery, even as opposition Democrats are planning to vote this week to curb changes at the U.S. Postal Service. The Democrats say the changes would inhibit the processing of an expected sharp increase in mailed-in ballots in November's national presidential election. Mr. Trump told reporters Monday that he has encouraged officials to speed up the mail, not slow it down. He made the remarks outside the White House before leaving for campaign appearances in the Midwestern states of Minnesota and Wisconsin. Mr. Trump said last week that he opposes $28 billion in new funding for the postal agency, part of it to pay for collection and processing of an expected onslaught of millions of mailed-in ballots from voters too afraid to go to polling places during the coronavirus pandemic. For months, Mr. Trump has claimed the states mailing out ballots to voters would lead to election fraud and a rigged vote against him. This is VOA News. Nearly 773,000 people have died from COVID-19 globally, with more than 170,000 of those deaths in the United States, more than 108 in Brazil. Mexico comes in third with about half of Brazil's figures. The number of infections is more than 21.8 million globally, with about a quarter of the infections in the U.S. and more than a quarter with Brazil and India combined. A new report says COVID-19 cases in U.S. nursing homes jumped nearly 80% earlier this summer, driven by rapid spread across the South and much of the West. Monday's report from the nursing home industry analyzed weekly coronavirus statistics reported to the government. Weekly cases in nursing homes rose 77% from a low point at the week starting June 21st to the week of July 26th. The Trump administration is trying to distribute fast coronavirus test machines to all nursing homes. Traffic came to a standstill in Buenos Aires Monday as hundreds of Argentines ventured out on foot and in their cars to protest against the government of President Alberto Fernandez. Protesters expressed a number of grievances against Fernandez's government, ranging from the state of the economy, lockdown measures across the country, and proposed judicial reform. Latin America's largest, or I should say third largest economy, crisis already before the pandemic hit. The United Nations data show the health crisis is now expected to shrink around 12% this year, driving millions into poverty and leaving almost 6 out of every 10 children and adolescents below the poverty line. Argentina's government has also launched a bid to reform the judiciary by increasing the number of federal courts, diluting the power of those that already exist in what critics have labeled an attempt to manipulate the court system. Groups of protesters set fires to tires in Khartoum Monday evening after Sudanese security forces fired tear gas to disperse thousands of protesters earlier in the day who gathered to mark the anniversary of a transitional power-sharing deal. The agreement set up a precarious alliance of civil technocrats and military officials following the April 2019 ouster of longtime ruler Omar al-Bashir, with elections due to be held after 39 months. The government says it is pushing ahead with reforms, but many people want swifter and deeper change. Police said in a statement that officers' use of tear gas during the demonstration was lawful and according to their evaluation of the situation on the ground, but has led to some random injuries. Via remote, I'm Tommy McNeil, VOA News.